The massive crystal building floated in space above the peaceful planet called Harmony Prime. Inside this huge structure, beings from 847 different worlds gathered to talk and make decisions that affected the entire galaxy. The Galactic Forum had been the center of peace and order for over 3,000 years. Commander Jake Harrison walked through the long hallways of the Forum building. His black uniform with the Earth symbol on his chest marked him as one of the newest members of this ancient organization. Behind him walked his team of humans who had spent the last 50 years trying to prove that Earth deserved respect among the stars. Lisa Martinez carried a datapad filled with research about alien biology. She had studied every species in the Forum and knew more about their bodies and minds than most of their own scientists. But whenever she spoke in meetings, the older races would smile and pat her on the head like she was a child. General Kate Sullivan wore her military dress uniform covered in medals from Earth's wars. She had fought against alien pirates and protected human colonies from raiders. Her strategies had saved millions of lives. Yet when the Forum discussed military matters, they asked her to wait outside like she might break something important. The three humans entered the main assembly hall where hundreds of different creatures sat in floating chairs, arranged in perfect circles. Some looked like giant insects with too many arms. Others were made of living rock that glowed with inner light. A few were pure energy beings that shifted colors when they spoke. At the center of the room stood the speaking platform where Elder Vorthik of the Dominion Council was giving a speech. His voice boomed through translation devices that turned his alien words into every language spoken in the galaxy. The approaching threat from the Void Swarm grows stronger each day, Elder Vorthik announced. His 4 eyes scanned the assembled delegates with obvious authority. 17 star systems have already been consumed by this enemy, but we have faced such dangers before. Our shields are strong. Our weapons are tested by time. We shall endure, as we always have. Jake felt his hands clench into fists. He had read the reports from the outer colonies. The Void Swarm was not like anything the galaxy had faced before. It was growing stronger with each system it destroyed. The old ways of fighting would not work against this enemy. The Zephyrian ambassador stood up next. His blue skin sparkled with tiny lights that showed his emotions. Right now those lights were flashing with contempt. The humans have requested to share their defensive technology with the Forum, he said in a voice that made it clear he thought this was a joke. They claim their primitive metal ships and explosive weapons can help us. Laughter filled the great hall. Not the kind laughter of friends sharing a funny story, but the cruel laughter of adults mocking a child who thinks they understand grown-up problems. Jake stood up from his seat. Our weapons may look simple to you, but they work. We have tested them against Void Swarm scouts. Our dark matter research has shown promising results. Dark matter weapons, scoffed the Krulian delegate, a creature that looked like a walking tree with too many branches. Impossible and dangerous. Your species has been in space for less than 200 years. What could you possibly know that we have not learned in 20,000? Lisa Martinez activated her datapad and projected images into the air above the assembly. The pictures showed detailed scans of Void Swarm tissue samples and weapon test results. Our analysis indicates that the swarm adapts to energy-based attacks within minutes. Conventional Forum weapons will become useless after the first engagement. More laughter echoed through the hall. Elder Vorthik raised one of his 4 hands. For silence. Young human, your enthusiasm is admirable but misguided. The Forum has protected this galaxy since before your world developed written language. We know how to handle threats. General Sullivan stepped forward. With respect, Elder, your traditional methods are designed for fighting other civilized species. The Void Swarm is not civilized. It does not negotiate. It does not retreat. It only consumes and grows stronger. Silence, commanded Elder Vorthik. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Humans are too young and reckless to participate in military planning. You lack the wisdom that comes with age. You will not be included in our defensive strategies. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. For 50 years, humanity had tried to earn respect in the galactic community. They had shared their technology. Freely, they had helped settle disputes between older races. They had even fought pirates and raiders to protect foreign trade routes, but it was never enough. No matter what humans accomplished, they were still seen as children playing with toys. They did not understand. Jake looked around the assembly hall at faces that ranged from amused to annoyed. Not one of the 847 species represented here saw humans as equals. They were pets to be tolerated, not partners to be respected. The commander made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. The United Earth Coalition formally withdraws from all forum proceedings, Jake announced. His voice carried clearly through the vast chamber despite the shocked gasps from hundreds of different species. We thank the Forum for their guidance over the past 50 years, but Earth will handle the Void Swarm threat independently. The silence that followed was complete. Not even the background hum of the building's systems could be heard as every being in the assembly processed what they had just witnessed. Lisa Martinez and General Sullivan moved to stand beside their commander. Other human delegates throughout the hall stood up and began walking toward the exits. For the first time in Forum history, an entire species was abandoning the galactic community. Elder Vorthik finally found his voice. You doom yourselves with your arrogance, young species. The galaxy has protected itself long before your kind learned to make fire. Without our guidance, you will be destroyed. Jake paused at the threshold of the Great Hall. He turned back to face the assembly with a cold smile that made several nearby delegates step backward. Perhaps, Elder Vorthik. But when we succeed where you are too afraid to try, remember this moment. Remember that you had the chance to stand with us. The human delegation filed out of the Forum building for the last time. Behind them, 846 species sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what had just happened. In the space around Harmony Prime, human ships that had been waiting in orbit began moving toward the hyperspace jump points. Earth was cutting all ties with the galactic community and facing the approaching darkness alone. The galaxy watched in terror as humans abandoned the Forum, not knowing that this moment would mark the beginning of humanity's rise to become the most feared and respected species among the stars. 6 months had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Forum. Earth had become a world at war, but not against any enemy the galaxy had ever seen before. Every factory, every shipyard, every research lab worked day and night preparing for the battle that was coming. Admiral Ben Cooper stood on the observation deck of Luna City's main shipyard, watching as massive construction robots built ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These were not the smooth, curved vessels that Forum races preferred. Human warships looked like floating fortresses made of black metal and sharp angles. Every surface bristled with weapons that could tear apart asteroids. How many ships do we have ready? Cooper asked his aide, a young officer named Lieutenant Danny Walsh. 47 combat vessels completed, sir. Another 30 will be finished within the month. The industrial colonies are working at maximum capacity. Danny handed him a data pad showing production numbers that would have been impossible just 1 year ago. Cooper nodded as he studied the numbers. Humanity had learned to build things fast during their early wars. Now they were applying that same speed to preparing for a threat that could destroy their entire species. In the underground laboratories, beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amy Rodriguez had not slept for 3 days straight. Her team had been working on a problem that Forum scientists said was impossible to solve. They wanted to turn dark matter into a weapon. The theoretical models all say it cannot be done. Her assistant, Dr. Bobby Chun, said as he reviewed their latest test results. Dark matter does not interact with regular matter except through gravity. How can we weaponize something we cannot even touch? Amy smiled as she pointed to the readings on her computer screen. Because we are not thinking like Forum scientists. They try to control dark matter by following the rules they learned thousands of years ago. We are making new rules. The breakthrough had come from studying human children playing with magnets. If you could not touch something directly, you found ways to push and pull it from a distance. Amy's team had built machines that could grab dark matter using specially designed gravity fields and squeeze it into concentrated bursts of energy. The first test firing will happen tomorrow, Amy announced to her exhausted team. If this works, we will have a weapon that can hurt the Void Swarm in ways it has never experienced before. Captain Steve Collins was millions of miles away from Earth, flying his ship through empty space beyond the borders of Forum territory. His vessel, Earth's Pride, was covered in experimental technology that made it invisible to most sensors. Steve and his crew were gathering information about the enemy that was coming for them all. Captain, I am picking up something on long range. Scanners, reported his navigator, Sergeant Linda Foster. It looks like debris from destroyed ships. Steve ordered his ship to move closer to investigate. What they found made his blood run cold. Floating in space were the remains of an entire Krillian battle fleet. The tree-like aliens had sent 50 of their best warships to fight a small group of Void Swarm scouts. Now there was nothing left but twisted metal and frozen bodies. The swarm is not just destroying ships, observed Chief Science Officer Patricia Hayes as she studied the wreckage. It is consuming them. Look at these metal fragments. They show signs of being partially digested. Steve recorded everything. They found and sent the data back to Earth using encrypted communications. The Forum races still believed they could fight the Void Swarm using traditional battle tactics. They had no idea what they were really facing. On Earth, President Helen Carter addressed the leaders of every human nation. The meeting was held in the old United Nations building, but now it served a much different purpose than promoting peace between countries. Now it was the command center for humanity's war against extinction. The galaxy has abandoned us to face this threat alone, President Carter told the assembled leaders. Every Forum race has made it clear that they consider us too young and stupid to help in their defense plans. Fine, we will show them what young and stupid can accomplish when their survival is at stake. The president activated a holographic display that showed the current position of the Void Swarm. The massive enemy had grown even larger since consuming the Krillian fleet. It was moving slowly but steadily toward the heart of Forum space, eating everything in its path. Our scientists estimate that the swarm will reach the outer colonies of the Zephyrian Empire within 8 months. The president continued. After that, it will take approximately 2 years to consume all of Forum space, unless someone stops it. General Sullivan stood up from her seat. She had been promoted to head of all human military forces after their withdrawal from the Forum. Our intelligence suggests that the Forum races are already beginning to panic. The Zephyrians have started evacuating their border worlds. The Dominion Council is moving their fleets into defensive positions around their home systems. What about our preparations? Asked the representative from the Mars colonies. We will be ready, Admiral Cooper answered confidently. Our ships are faster and more heavily armed than anything the Forum has ever built. Our weapons can hurt the Void Swarm in ways their energy beams cannot. Most importantly, we are willing to take risks that they would never consider. Back in space, intercepted Forum communications revealed growing fear among the alien races. The proud Zephyrian ambassador who had laughed at human technology was now begging his government for more defensive ships. The Krillian Empire had lost contact with 3 more of their outer colonies. Even Elder Verthek of the mighty Dominion Council was privately admitting to advisors that their traditional weapons might not be enough, but it was too late for the Forum to change their minds about working with humanity. Long-range sensors. Throughout the galaxy were detecting massive gravitational disturbances as the Void Swarm approached the edge of civilized space. The enemy was coming, and the galaxy's day of judgment was almost here, docked in the depths of space. The Void Swarm continued its slow advance toward billions of innocent lives. It had consumed entire star systems and grown stronger with each victory. But for the first time in its ancient existence, it was about to encounter a species that refused to fight by the old rules. Humanity was preparing to do what no other race in galactic history had ever attempted. They were going to hunt the hunter. The alarm bells on Captain Lisa Warner's ship screamed through every corridor as the New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace. Lisa had expected to find the Kepler 442 system quiet and peaceful, home to a small mining colony that harvested rare metals from the asteroid belts. Instead, she found herself staring at the most terrifying sight any human had ever witnessed. The Void Swarm had arrived first. "Dear God," whispered her navigator, Lieutenant Carl Anderson, as he stared at the main view screen. "What is that thing?" Lisa could not answer because she did not have words to describe what filled the space before them. The Void Swarm was not a fleet of ships as everyone had imagined. It was a single, massive creature that stretched across millions of miles of space. Giant tentacles the size of moons reached out from a central body that pulsed with dark energy. These tentacles were wrapped around the planets of the Kepler system, slowly crushing them and absorbing their matter. "Captain, I am reading massive energy signatures from that central mass," reported Chief Science Officer Nancy Phillips from her station. "It appears to be some kind of biological entity, but the size is impossible according to all known laws of physics." Lisa watched in horror as one of the creature's tentacles squeezed a planet until it cracked like an egg. The broken pieces were then drawn into tube-like appendages that transported the planetary matter back to the creature's main body. With each planet it consumed, the Void Swarm grew larger and more powerful. "All human vessels, this is Captain Warner of the New Horizon." Lisa broadcast on the emergency frequency. "The enemy is not what we expected. Repeat, the Void Swarm is a single massive organism. It feeds on planets and grows stronger with each system it destroys." Her communication officer, Sergeant Tommy Martinez, looked up from his station with wide eyes. "Captain, I am receiving responses from 12 other human ships in nearby systems. They are all reporting similar sightings. This thing has multiple feeding tentacles spread across dozens of star systems." Lisa realized that what they were seeing was just one small part of a creature so large that it could attack multiple solar systems at the same time. The scope of the threat was beyond anything humanity had prepared for. "Run full sensor sweeps," Lisa ordered. "I want to know everything about this creature. How it moves, how it feeds, how it thinks. If we are going to fight this thing, we need to understand what it is." The New Horizon moved closer to the feeding tentacle, staying just outside the range of the smaller appendages that writhed through space like hungry snakes. Lisa's crew worked frantically to gather data while the creature continued its slow destruction of the Kepler system. "Captain, I think I have found something important," announced Lieutenant Anderson from his station. "Look at these readings. The creature has what appears to be nerve clusters at regular intervals along each tentacle. If we could damage those clusters, we might be able to hurt it." Lisa studied the scanner data on her command screen. The nerve clusters appeared as bright spots of electrical activity that pulsed in rhythm with the creature's feeding motions. They were heavily protected by thick layers of biological armor, but they were also the most vulnerable part of the tentacle structure. "Load all torpedo tubes with Dr. Rodriguez's experimental dark matter warheads," Lisa commanded. "We are going to test these weapons against a real target." Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Paula Davis, looked nervous as she armed the new torpedoes. "Captain, these weapons have never been tested in actual combat. We do not know what will happen when they detonate. We know what will happen if we do nothing. Lisa replied grimly. "This creature will consume every planet in the galaxy unless someone finds a way to stop it. We might be humanity's only chance to learn how to hurt this thing." The New Horizon approached the nearest nerve cluster, dodging smaller tentacles that reached out to grab the human ship. Lisa could see now that the creature was aware of their presence. Parts of its body were shifting to focus on the small vessel that dared to come so close. "Fire all torpedoes," Lisa ordered. 6 dark matter warheads streaked through space toward their target. Lisa held her breath as the experimental weapon struck the nerve cluster and detonated in bursts of impossible energy that bent space and time around the point of impact. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entire tentacle convulsed as waves of pain traveled along its length back to the creature's main body. The nerve cluster flickered and went dark. The smaller appendages that had been reaching for the New Horizon suddenly went limp and began drifting in space. "It worked," shouted Lieutenant Anderson. The dark matter weapons disrupted the creature's nervous system. That section of tentacle appears to be paralyzed. But their victory celebration was cut short as the creature's response became clear. The main body of the Void Swarm pulsed with angry red light, and every other tentacle in the system began moving toward the New Horizons. "Position." "Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching from all directions," reported Sergeant Martinez. "The creature is sending everything it has after us." Lisa gripped the arms of her command chair as space around them filled with writhing biological weapons, each larger than Earth's moon. All power to engines. "Get us out of here now." The New Horizon raced toward the edge of the system with the entire Void Swarm chasing behind them. Massive tentacles reached out to grab the fleeing human ship, while smaller creatures that looked like living asteroids fired energy beams that could vaporize a battleship. "Hyperspace jump in 30 seconds, called out the navigation officer. Lisa watched the view screen as one particularly large tentacle came close enough to scrape against their rear shields. The impact sent shockwaves through the entire ship, but they held together long enough to escape into hyperspace. As the New Horizon fled toward human space, Lisa composed her report for Earth Command. They had learned that the Void Swarm could be hurt, but they had also learned that it was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The creature was not just consuming planets for food. It was learning from each encounter, adapting its tactics to counter whatever weapons were used against it. The data from their attack showed that the creature had already begun growing thicker armor around its remaining nerve clusters. By the time human ships returned to continue the fight, the Void Swarm would be ready for them. Lisa's report reached Earth within hours, and the response was immediate. Admiral Cooper began implementing Operation Prometheus, humanity's desperate plan to strike at the creature's main body before it could adapt to all of their weapons. The hunt was about to begin, but now both predator and prey knew exactly what they were facing. Admiral Ben Cooper stood on the bridge of his flagship Defiance as 50 human warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Void Swarm territory. The sight that greeted them was worse than any nightmare. The creature had grown to 3 times its original size since Captain Warner's first encounter. Entire star systems had been consumed, their matter absorbed into the writhing mass of dark flesh that now blocked out the stars. "All ships, this is Admiral Cooper," he broadcast to his fleet. "Activate Shadow Protocol. We are going hunting." 1. By 1, the human ships vanished from normal sensors as their experimental stealth systems bent light and energy around them. For the first time in its ancient existence, the Void Swarm found itself being stalked by prey that refused to act like victims. Commander Pete Sullivan, Cooper's tactical officer, studied the creature's movements from his position at the sensor. "Station, Admiral, the swarm appears confused. Its tentacles are searching empty space where our ships were a moment ago. It has never encountered an enemy it cannot see. The human fleet moved like ghosts through the debris fields that had once been peaceful solar systems. Captain Rick Davis led a squadron of small fighter craft deep into the creature's body, while larger ships provided covering fire from a distance. Their mission was to locate and destroy the nerve clusters that controlled the swarm's ability to adapt to new weapons. Dr. Nancy Phillips, monitoring the battle from her research ship Discovery, watched the creature's biological patterns on her screens. "It is trying to learn our stealth technology," she reported to Admiral Cooper. "I can see it growing new sensory organs along its outer surface. We do not have much time before it figures out how to detect us." The humans fought unlike any species the Void Swarm had encountered in its millions of years of existence. Instead of forming battle lines and exchanging fire with the creature's defensive weapons, they struck at vital organs and then disappeared before the swarm could retaliate. Squadron after squadron of human fighters dove into the creature's body, targeting the biological systems that kept it alive. Captain Jennifer Bell commanded the left flank of Cooper's fleet as they attacked a cluster of feeding tentacles that were consuming the remains of a Zephyrian colony world. Her ship, the Vengeance, fired its dark matter cannons into the tentacle's nerve center, while smaller vessels darted between the creature's defensive appendages. "Direct hit on primary nerve cluster," reported her weapons officer. "The tentacle is going limp. It has stopped feeding." But their success came at a cost. The Void Swarm was learning from each attack. When Captain Bell's ships tried the same tactic on a second tentacle, they found it protected by thick layers of new armor that could deflect their dark matter weapons. "It is adapting faster than we anticipated," Admiral Cooper told his fleet commanders during a brief tactical meeting. "We need to reach the main body before it develops defenses against all of our weapons." Meanwhile, Forum space was incomplete. Chaos. The Zephyrian Empire had lost its outer rim worlds when their home fleet attempted to fight a smaller Void Swarm tendril using traditional energy weapons. The creature had absorbed their attack and grown stronger, then destroyed every ship in their defense force. The Corellian homeworld was under direct attack. Their tree-like citizens were being evacuated to underground shelters as massive tentacles reached down from space to grab buildings and vehicles. The proud warriors who had laughed at human weapons were now begging for help from anyone who would listen. Even the mighty Dominion Council was in retreat. Elder Vorthek, who had dismissed humanity as too young and reckless, now broadcast desperate messages across the galaxy asking for assistance from any species with effective weapons against the swarm. "The humans were right," Elder Vorthek admitted in a transmission that reached every world in Forum space. "Our traditional methods are not enough. We need their help, but our ships cannot reach them. The Void Swarm has cut off all communication with human territory." But Admiral Cooper's fleet was beyond the reach of Forum pleas for help. They were deep in enemy territory, fighting a running battle against an opponent that grew stronger and smarter with each passing hour. Colonel Frank Martinez led the fighter squadrons in their most dangerous mission yet. His pilots flew their small craft directly into the creature's digestive organs, planting explosive charges that would disrupt its ability to process consumed matter. The internal structure of the Void Swarm was like flying through the belly of a living mountain filled with acid and crushing pressure. "Martinez to all fighter squadrons," Frank broadcast to his pilots as they navigated through the creatures internal passages. "Plant your charges and get out fast. This thing is starting to seal off the passages behind us." Lieutenant Angela Turner found herself trapped when one of the creature's internal valves closed around her fighter. Instead of panicking, she detonated her ship's entire ammunition supply, creating an explosion that tore a hole in the creature's digestive wall and allowed her squadron mates to escape. The human fleet had been fighting for 18 hours straight when Dr. Phillips made a discovery that changed everything. While studying the creature's biological patterns, she noticed that all of its tentacles and organs were controlled by a single massive brain located at the very center of its body. "Admiral Cooper, I have found the target we need," she announced over the fleet communication channel. The creature has a central nervous system buried deep inside its core. If we can destroy that brain, the entire organism will die. Admiral Cooper studied the tactical display showing the location of the creature's brain. It was protected by thousands of miles of living tissue and defensive organs that could destroy entire fleets. Getting a weapon to that target would require flying through the most dangerous environment in the galaxy. All ships form up for final assault, Cooper ordered. We are going to fly directly into that thing's heart and plant Dr. Rodriguez's biggest dark matter bomb right in its brain. The surviving human ships gathered around the Defiance as Admiral Cooper prepared to lead them on the most dangerous mission in human history. They had lost 27 vessels during the running battle to reach this point, but the ships that remained carried humanity's finest warriors and their most advanced weapons dot in the distance. The Void Swarm's massive form pulsed with malevolent intelligence as it prepared to face this strange new enemy that refused to surrender or retreat. The final battle was about to begin, and the fate of every living thing in the galaxy hung in the balance. The final battle took place in what had once been the Proxima Centauri system. The Void Swarm's main body had grown to impossible size after consuming 3 entire star systems. It was a creature of pure nightmare made real, a writhing mass of dark flesh and hostile intelligence that stretched across millions of miles of space. At its center, buried deep within layers of living armor, was the brain that controlled this monster. Admiral Cooper watched from the bridge of the Defiance as his remaining 23 ships prepared for humanity's last desperate gambit. They had come too far to turn back now. Every human who had died to reach this moment deserved to see their sacrifice mean something. Remember, Cooper broadcast to all vessels, we are not just fighting for Earth. Every species in this galaxy is counting on us whether they know it or not. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had worked without sleep for the past 3 days to complete humanity's ultimate weapon. The dark matter implosion device was small enough to fit inside a single fighter craft, but it contained enough concentrated energy to collapse a star. The problem was that someone would need to deliver it manually to the creature's central nervous system. Captain Sandra Hayes had volunteered for the suicide mission. Her ship, the small but heavily armored Valiant, was loaded with the prototype weapon and covered in the thickest protective plating human technology could provide. She knew she would not survive the mission, but her sacrifice might save billions of lives. Hayes to Admiral Cooper, Sandra spoke calmly into her communication system as she prepared for launch. I am ready to begin the final approach. All systems are green. Understood, Captain, Cooper replied, his voice thick with emotion. The fleet will clear a path for you. Make it count. As Sandra's ship moved toward the creature's core, the entire Void Swarm focused its attention on stopping her. Every defensive weapon, every grasping tentacle, every creature within the massive organism turned toward the small human vessel that dared to approach its brain. The battle that followed would be remembered as the greatest display of human courage in galactic history. Every remaining ship in Cooper's fleet threw themselves between Sandra and the creature's defensive responses. They formed a moving wall of metal and fire that carved a path through the swarm's body. Lieutenant Angela Turner, flying her damaged interceptor with one engine destroyed, rammed a massive tentacle that was about to crush Sandra's ship. The explosion tore a hole in the creature's defenses, but Angela's ship was vaporized in the blast. Sergeant Billy Johnson detonated his fighter's entire ammunition supply to destroy a cluster of defensive organs that were firing energy beams at the Valiant. His sacrifice created a gap in the creature's attacks that allowed Sandra to fly deeper into its body. One by one, humanity's finest gave their lives so that one small ship could reach its target. Captain Rick Davis led his squadron directly into the creature's digestive acids to draw fire away from Sandra's approach route. Colonel Frank Martinez crashed his command ship into a vital nerve cluster to prevent the swarm from coordinating its defenses. The Valiant flew through passages made of living flesh that tried to close around it. Sandra's ship was battered by crushing pressure and acid that ate through its armor, but she kept flying toward the creature's brain. Her instruments showed massive electrical activity ahead as the Void Swarm's consciousness realized what was happening. "All ships, this is Hayes." Sandra's voice crackled over the communication system as warning lights flashed throughout her damaged cockpit. "I can see the target. The brain is directly ahead. It knows I am coming." The creature's brain was the size of a small moon, pulsing with dark energy that hurt to look at directly. Around it, defensive organs fired streams of destruction that could melt asteroids. But Sandra's ship had been built by humans who understood that sometimes the only way to win was to sacrifice everything. "Tell them back home," Sandra said as her ship's hull began to crack under the pressure. "Tell them we kept our promise. We showed the galaxy what humans can do." The Valiant reached the exact center of the creature's consciousness, and Sandra triggered the dark matter implosion device. The explosion that followed was visible from 17 light-years away as concentrated dark energy tore apart the fundamental structure of space and time around the swarm's brain. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the creature. Without its central nervous system, the massive organism began to collapse in on itself. Tentacles that had been crushing planets suddenly went limp and began drifting in space. The dark energy that had held the creature together for millions of years started to dissipate. Across the galaxy, civilizations that had cowered in fear watched their long-range sensors register the impossible. The Void Swarm was dying. The humans had done what every other species believed could never be accomplished. Admiral Cooper's surviving ships limped away from the collapsing creature as massive sections of its body broke apart and dissolved into quantum foam. Only 7 human vessels remained from the 50 that had begun the mission, but they had saved every living thing in the galaxy. On the bridge of the Defiance, Commander Sullivan received an urgent communication from Forum Space. Elder Vorthak himself appeared on the main screen, his 4 eyes filled with desperate hope. "Admiral Cooper, this is Elder Vorthak of the Dominion Council. We have witnessed your victory over the Void Swarm. The Forum formally apologizes for our treatment of humanity and requests that your species rejoin our organization. We need your leadership and your weapons to defend against future threats." Cooper looked at the image of the alien leader who had dismissed humans as too young and reckless just months before. Around him, his bridge crew waited to hear how their admiral would respond to the galaxy's plea for forgiveness. "Elder Vorthak," Cooper said calmly, "humanity appreciates the invitation, but we will handle our own affairs from now on. The galaxy is welcome to follow our lead if they can keep up." The communication ended, leaving the Forum to contemplate a new reality. The species they had dismissed as children had become the most powerful force in the galaxy. The age of human dominance among the stars had begun. Back on Earth, President Carter addressed the survivors of humanity's greatest victory. "Today we proved that being young does not mean being weak. Being different does not mean being wrong. The galaxy will never underestimate us again." From that day forward, when any species faced an impossible challenge, they would ask themselves a simple question that echoed across the stars. What would the humans do? The galaxy had watched in terror as humans abandoned the Forum, but now they watched in awe as humanity reshaped the very nature of galactic civilization. The age of playing by ancient rules was over. The age of human innovation had begun.